My husband confessed that my best friend's 3 kids are his. He left to fix everything, only to return with a shocking proposal that broke me completely. I'm female, 44. My entire marriage to my husband, Ken, male 43, is in shambles, and I am kind of relieved. We had been married for over 20 years and have been childless due to my husband's wishes of not being burdened by children. I wasn't really keen on having kids either, so it worked out for us. However, despite not having kids, the usual reason marriages tend to lose their spark after the first few years of our relationship, I realized that my husband had simply stopped putting any effort into the relationship. I felt like I was taken for granted. When I was 30, I had a coworker named James who was interested in me, and I fully admit that I started to develop feelings for him too. We didn't physically cheat, but I feel like the emotional attachment I had to him was also a slap in the face for my husband. I confessed, and we worked it out through relationship counseling. A part of the way we healed was that I shifted my job, and I ended up taking a hit on my paycheck. It was worth it for me, as it felt necessary to save my marriage. After this, Ken and I were rock solid for a while, but it again tapered back into feeling unhappy in the relationship. Apart from Ken, the most important person in my life is Mandy, female 44. She's been my friend since primary school, and I trusted her with everything. She helped me move into my first apartment, she was the maid of honor at my wedding, and we've stayed super close since. She also lived nearby. However, Mandy also struggles a lot financially since she has 3 kids, 10, 6, and 4, and is a single mother. She says all of her kids are from different dads, and to me that's a major issue that she has. I guess she was and is too casual about hookups and the disastrous consequences thereof. Her kids are all lovely, and they surprisingly look quite like siblings. I was their aunt and helped out with her parenting whenever I could lend a hand. Ken is also really involved in their lives, and it's something that I admired about him. Last month, to my complete surprise, I saw James in our neighborhood. I had half a mind to just ignore him, but he called me over and we began talking. He was still single, and he asked about my relationship too, in a very obvious manner. It turns out that he had bought a house in the suburb we lived in, and was planning on settling down there. Despite the troubled marriage I had, and the fact that issues had resurfaced again, I didn't find myself attracted to James as I did back in my 30s. However, when I told Ken about it, he became insanely jealous. I was so surprised by his reaction. He told me that it was unfair that he has to see the dude I almost cheated on him with every day in his own neighborhood. I do get where he's coming from, but it's not like we could just move away because of James. The unfortunate thing was that James was an active member of the community. He was at every HOA meeting just like I was, and often took the lead in organizing events or block parties. It led to a lot of fights with my husband because he simply didn't believe me when I said I was not going to end up with James. One evening when I got home from an HOA meeting, Ken was looking really nervous, and he told me that we needed to talk. He sat me down and said, "Op, I need you to know something. I have been with Mandy. I've cheated on you." I was taken aback by this, not just because I thought that my husband had cheated on me, but because he had cheated on me with my best friend. I asked him how long this had been going on, and his response had me in tears. He said, "Well, OP, it started after that incident with James, and I just kept going. She's not just a mistress, they're kids of mine too." Every single kid Mandy had was my husband's. He said that even though he used to feel like he wasn't ready for kids, after Mandy's first child was born, he had a change of heart and wanted to have kids with her. The worst part was that even Mandy agreed to this, and Ken sent over a significant portion of his money to Mandy as an unofficial kind of child support. He also visits them super frequently, even more than I was aware of. All of these things taken together, which is too much to handle, and I had a breakdown. Ken kept saying that he confessed because it was the right thing to do, but where was all this 10 years ago? Apparently, seeing James here again made him realize that our issues weren't ever properly resolved, and he hadn't been honest with me, so that might be a part of it. I couldn't believe how he fought an emotional affair with a man 10 years ago, had the same weight as what he had done with my best friend. I kicked him out and told him to go stay with Mandy, and I had been in the house alone for all of this time. Now, while Ken was gone, James heard about what happened. The gossip spread through the neighborhood like wildfire, and he came to check in on me. I was fully resigned to him taking this as his chance to get with me. But I was surprised when he treated me with empathy, compassion, and respect. It was clear he wasn't looking for a relationship, and he was just there as a shoulder to cry on. He visited me consistently and made me feel like a whole person again. On the 3rd day, there was a spark between us, and I felt like I did back then. It was clear that there was something between us, and we slept together. The very next day, Ken showed up at my doorstep and told me that he had worked things out with Mandy. I asked him what exactly he meant, and he told me that Mandy wasn't on board with revealing the truth about her kid's father to me. She doesn't want to be a homewrecker, by causing a divorce as if being a mistress was fine as long as nobody knew. Ugh. I hadn't spoken to her or heard from her during the 3 days I was alone, and it's clear by now that our friendship is over. She's probably too scared to talk to me anyways. Ken told me that Mandy was willing to fully raise the children herself as long as she got a legal contract giving her child support. In return, Ken and I could continue trying to rebuild our marriage. That was his solution. I literally laughed in his face. James was also there, and when my husband saw him, there was a huge brawl. I told Ken that we were done, and I'm filing for divorce, and as he was walking away, he shouted, "You couldn't even wait until we were divorced to jump on somebody else." Honestly, I feel like he has no right to say that after everything he confessed to me. But a few of my friends are saying I should have waited before sleeping with James. It might also hurt me during the divorce proceedings since I am also technically a cheater now. When I think about it, I do think I ended up sleeping with James because I was emotionally vulnerable. So was I the a-hole for what I did? Update 1, first things first, I just want to clarify that I am not in a relationship with James just yet. To be honest, I regret sleeping with him right away, and both of us have mutually agreed to just be friends for now. Ken is currently living with Mandy, and from what I heard from my friends, they're trying to make things work between them for the kids, I guess. Despite not wanting to be burdened with kids, that's what's going to happen to my soon-to-be ex-husband. The divorce is going to take place mutually, so thankfully I won't have to fight him on that, but there's going to be a lot of nitpicking when it comes to assets and finances, and I will have to prepare myself for that. Update 2, Mandy ended up reaching out to me about a week after the divorce was finalized, and I spoke to her despite the anger I felt. She started by saying, "I didn't want to hurt you like this, Ope. Everything that happened between me and Ken just felt different, and that's why I had to be with him. I felt terrible about it, and I hope that everything being out in the open might help. But it really doesn't. Do you think we could still be friends?" I laughed as she finished her last sentence and told her that her feeling bad doesn't fix a single damn thing. The conversation steadily got more and more heated until she spurted out, "You cheated too," as her only justification. I hung up on her and blocked her, and I hope she enjoys Ken. Update 3. I'm finally free of Ken and Mandy. James and I are dating, and I know a lot of comments are going to scream at me about that, but at this point I am honestly beyond caring. I'm not getting any younger, and I finally found a man who is, decent. A good man who doesn't cheat and claim he did it because he was insecure. The divorce worked out kind of in my favor, and I got the house and a decent amount of alimony. I haven't really bothered finding out about what my ex-husband and ex-friend are up to, but from what I have heard from my friends, they're going to get married, whatever works for them. I would have loved to keep in touch with the kids, but after knowing about their dad, I don't think I can look at them in the same way again. Anyways, I've read through your comments, and I understand people saying esh. I hope this fresh start and new relationship can help me learn from my past mistakes. Esh. I feel so bad for the kids. I wasn't sure whether to go with NTA or esh, but the amount of times you claim that you weren't attracted to James after he moved into your neighborhood seems like it's laid on a little too thick for me to believe you. Of course, Mandy and Ken are much bigger a-holes than you, but yeah, you should have waited before doing anything with James. I kind of get why sleeping with James is a bit of a moral gray area, but honestly, with the kind of pain you were going through, I don't think you're the a-hole for doing what you did. NTA in my opinion. Next story. About 6 weeks ago, I, 21-year-old female, moved in with my friend John, 22-year-old male. John and I have been very good friends for almost 2 years now after I befriended him at work. 6 months ago, he met this girl, Kat, 19. He told me about her the day after he matched with her on the dating app and took me to her workplace to meet her. She seemed very lovely. I was so happy for him. Since then, John is always inviting her to every friend's outing, so I got to know her. We have lots in common, and for John's sake, I wanted to be her friend. However, I think that in the nicest way possible, she is a bit rude. She does art, and half the time John compliments her work, she says, "You hate it, don't you?" Or, times we hang out with other friends, we have had to go home earlier because she was bored, and John was on our ride home. She hasn't done anything to me personally, but I just don't like her much. I'm happy John has found someone he cares for, but having to stand by and watch how she acts sometimes rubs me the wrong way. Here's where the issue comes in. Yesterday, John and I were at the supermarket to do our food shop. Normally, we would buy our food for the week and maybe a couple of simple frozen meals to save for Sunday. However, Kat has been coming over for dinners a few times a week, and she has a very limited diet. She refuses to eat anything other than fast food or simple frozen meals. She likely has her reasons for eating a specific food, and in case it's due to an eating disorder or something similar, I don't want to make things hard for her or pry into something that isn't my business. The time where it becomes an issue for me is how John has now wanted to buy backup meals for her in case she doesn't like what we are cooking. This would make sense, as before, she has been eating stuff that was part of our weekly meal plan. The problem is, John wants me to financially contribute to these extra meals for her. When I spoke to John about this and said how I am not happy paying half for her meals, our weekly shop cost is just split in half as we both eat everything, he got quite agitated. He called me selfish for not wanting to help her just to save money. I know frozen meals aren't the most expensive thing in the world, but John is in a much better financial situation than I am. And while I can pay my share of the bills and occasionally have outings with friends, I do not want to be dishing out extra money for meals for a girl I have no real connection to, as these small amounts do add up. In my eyes, if Kat doesn't like what we are cooking, she could come over a different day, or John could buy backup meals for her out of his own pocket. I feel like an a-hole, but I don't think I should be paying for an extra person's food. If my boyfriend had a similar situation to Kat, I see it as my responsibility to provide for him and his diet, and I'd never expect John to pay. Am I the a-hole for thinking this way? Do any of you have any advice? NTA, but it is time to take a financial and social step back from John as he navigates his new relationship. He can't expect Op to help finance the fact that his girlfriend eats like a child and needs backup meals. That is their expense alone. And perhaps separate shopping is now in order as you two no longer have the same joint priorities. On the flip side, I also wouldn't continue to rely on John as a writer if you constantly want to stay out with friends later. It honestly sounds like your life paths are just splitting at this time, and it is best to acknowledge that and adjust expectations of each other accordingly before bitterness sets in. I'd also get ahead of any ranting and living concerns sooner rather than later. If she's sticking around, it may be time to start planning an exit strategy. NTA, your roommate is being unreasonable by requesting that you help chip in for paying for his girlfriend's meals. You're not part of their relationship, you're just a friend and roommate of John's, not their other girlfriend. John wanting to buy these backup meals for his girlfriend should be his responsibility, not yours. Simply put, he can call you what he wants, he's still the unreasonable one. Thinking about it, shouldn't Kat be paying rent if they're showing up way too often? Or at least, maybe you should give your landlord a heads up the next time John brings up the idea that you have to pay for Kat's food. Next story, I, a fatty female, am getting married in June. The invites were all sent months ago. I come from a big family, my mom is one of 6. I did not invite her sister, my Aunt Anne, and female in her 50s. She is the only family member we did not invite. My Aunt Anne and I have a very complicated history. We were very close when I was younger. She was the crazy, unpredictable aunt that would let us buy and do anything we wanted. As I got older, I started realizing my parents probably shouldn't have trusted her with us in her care. She will do anything for attention. She's a compulsive liar, and many other things. Character limit. Then, in high school, she kidnapped me in the disguise of a California weekend trip and held me for ransom against my parents. When I gave her a second chance in college, she kicked me out onto the street, leading to me being homeless for over a month in a state where I had no family besides her to turn to for help. For me, that was my last straw. After that, she tried her behavior onto my other cousins. There's 11 of us, keeping the cycle of trying to be the core aunt. Then when she would overstep, people got mad and she got defensive and did something crazy, a few times worse than what she did to me. Since then, one of my uncles allegedly got a restraining order against her. She is not allowed near any of his children. So tonight, she called my mom, trying to really butter her up with a sob story for 30+ minutes before begging for an invite. My mom told her she would have to talk to me directly because it's my wedding. To that, Aunt Anne said, "Well, aren't you paying for it? Or you should invite who you want," which my mom responded with, "No, they are paying for the wedding, 100% themselves, something I'm very proud of, by the way. Yay us." Aunt Anne was flabbergasted, to say the least. She thought my parents paying for it would be her ticket in if she could guilt-trip them enough. When my mom was summarizing this to us, my dad was also in the room. He insisted that saying no to her will not work, that she will try to show up and act like she was invited. I told him that if she decides to arrive, she will promptly be escorted off the property. I don't want her there. My husband 1000% supports my decision. Also, my uncle with the restraining order will be there with his kids, so legally she can't. My dad said, "You should take the higher ground. It will ruin your day if you let her get to you. Just let her do her thing. I should ignore her and enjoy my day." I said having an unwanted guest will ruin my day, not asking someone to leave. He leaned into it, saying that it is in bad taste. I asked him if I should just let any random person that didn't get an invite attend. He said that's different, she's family. We went back and forth for a good 15 minutes about this. When he left, we were still not in agreement. He thinks I'm the a-hole for not letting her stay if she intrudes and not taking the high ground. I can't stop thinking about this, and am now starting to question my boundaries. Am I the a-hole? NTA, this woman legitimately sounds dangerous, and maybe I don't know the details of how restraining orders work. But if the uncle is present, she cannot be without being in violation of the order, right? Sadly, I think you do need to hire a security service for this event. It sounds like it would be very, very problematic if she shows up and it's not going to come down to whether she receives an invitation or not. This is not about ruining or embarrassing her. It's about holding on to the boundaries of your entire family needs against her. NTA, but your dad's point of view is concerning. She kidnapped you. Like, yeah, her coming to the wedding is different than a rando crashing the wedding, as in having the rando crash would be preferable. You'd have a neutral opinion of a rando, but a very negative opinion of your aunt, plus there's a non-zero chance that the rando is actually Bill Murray, so, yeah.